like the attention, girl, I know you. But you're everything I want in life. We're fighting danger like Kung Fu. The love I feel is deep inside. The others don't matter. It's honestly us against the world. We're the perfect team. You're my dream, and I just want it. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. To myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. To myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. To myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. Oh baby, if you ever need a helper, hey, you should know that I'll be there day and night. Nobody else can love you better. I'm here just to treat you right. You're the reason I'm alive. You're the only pain I can endure. And when you're not here, you're my dream, but I just want it. Yeah, I just wanna. You're my dream, but I just want it. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. To myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. To myself. To myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. To myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. Can't get to myself. But I just want it.
Deep inside, I knew from the start, you my bunny, I'm your Clark. From now to eternity, I give you all my heart. We are meant to be, it's clear to see. My love is bigger than I thought. I got everything I want when I hold you with my arms. Now this don't matter, my love and my pleasure, the key to my treasure. Whatever's the weather, day up and out with you till I die. How many times for you I'ma try? Want you to notice the one and I know this perfect soulmate. I wanna show it my best friend. She saved my life, my happy end in hard times.
Hug it to myself, hug it to myself, hug it to myself. I just want it. Can't get to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself, to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself. I just want it. Can't get to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself, to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself. Oh baby.
I hope you find what you've been looking for. Trust me, I don't wanna feel no more. Never mind, I'm thinking out loud before we draw a crowd. Reel it in, take it easy, there's no need to scream and shout. As far as I can see, now think it's time for you to leave in peace. As far as I can see, think it's time for you to leave in peace.
Hey everyone, this is Kurisu, and tonight I'm here with some more art process for my Kurisu emotes for my Twitch channel. But yeah, you guys are welcome to say what you'd like in chat and I'll respond as I can. But for now, go ahead and continue with the line art that I've been working on. I haven't seen you in chat, but I would like to thank, I think that's Halion, for following my channel. I really appreciate it. how's everyone doing tonight? Are you guys up to anything interesting? So is there anything you guys want to talk about? I'm down for pretty much anything. For those of you who are curious, all of the emotes here are designs that are being considered for my Kurisu and Emoten set that I plan on putting together. So if there are any that you guys like the best, please feel free to mention in chat, because as far as which ones will end up being made into pins, that'll be determined by the community and what everyone wants to see. welcome to chat. How are you? I'm doing alright, thanks. I understand completely. Ice cream is great year-round. What flavor is it?
Sound waves reaching the microphone are changed into impulses of electric current.
That's fine. I'm not offended when other people eat chocolate, I'm just not a fan of it personally.
Can't happen.
You know, I've never had pineapple on pizza, but I'm not really a fan of pineapple in general, so I don't think I would like it. But I'm not going to judge anybody based on what they want to eat, because I'm not the one eating it, so it doesn't matter. I'm almost done with our line art. I just need to go back through and add color afterwards. I'm also in the process of redoing the line art for this one, just because I didn't really like the way the eyes turned out. But I went ahead and just kept the line art that I already had done for the video, just so that it's not a blank space. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about that one, because it's always the ones that we kind of decide to do on the fly that end up being the most interesting. Yeah, I agree, because the others are kind of just, I don't want to say generic, but they're kind of just basic emotes like smiles or like sad faces or whatever, just because typically it makes sense to have those available as options. But eventually I do want to have a whole bunch of different, like, just ridiculous emotes that everyone can use. I agree. Like, I didn't think that I would enjoy making these just because it seemed like it would be like a really boring and repetitive process, I guess. But every emote is different, so it's not nearly as bad as I thought it would be. I've actually really enjoyed making these. Right. Yeah, because there are admittedly sometimes when there are pieces that I kind of get bored with, but I still have to finish them because otherwise it defeats the whole purpose of starting them in the first place. But that doesn't usually happen. It's usually just the ones with like a ton of detail or things like that where, like, I don't know. Like I said, though, usually I don't get bored with anything. The hardest thing is, like, if I'm working on something and then I get busy with, like, life or whatever, and then, like, coming back to it, it's hard to get back into something that I've been away from. Just because I'm not usually in the exact same mindset as when I started, so I may not know exactly what I had planned to finish it. But yeah, that's just a challenge with art, I guess. I agree completely. Especially when you haven't played a game for a while and it's a port on PC and it's giving you, like, the instructions for an Xbox controller and you're playing with a PlayStation controller, that gets really confusing because I've never really played Xbox much, so I'm not really sure about the controller configuration. So that makes things, I guess, more of a challenge, but not, like, too much to deal with. I mean, it is still just a video game. Yeah, and the really confusing thing with, like, switching between consoles, like, if you go from a Nintendo console to an Xbox console, just as an example, both controllers have A and B on them, and it gets really confusing because they're in different places. Kind of the same way with Xbox versus PlayStation. They both have the X button, but they're in completely different spots, and I hate that. Like, it's silly that they've just, I don't know. Like, it's cool if you want to have a different controller design, like, a different feel ergonomically, but I don't see why they all have to have the buttons in different spots. I agree. The only downside is that if they did that, there'd be a bunch of people who'd be upset, because, like, a group of people who prefers one controller would be like, oh my gosh, why did you change it this way? And then you'd have another group of people that'd be content because, like, it would be exactly what they're used to, and then, I don't know. You're never gonna make everybody happy, is the way I see it. It would be worth trying, though. Right? I think that's the worst part, because, like, sometimes when you compromise, there's always, I don't know, I want to say always, but there's always, like, one person who just wants everything to be only their way and not anyone else's. But, like, the whole point of a compromise is for everyone to sort of have some give and take, I guess.
Wherever love goes, there is also misery. It's no mystery. And you and I, we got history. Yeah. Wherever love flows, there is also tragedy. When we're in too deep. And you and I, we got history. Yeah. Go look in the mirror, say, hey, I'm sorry for all the pain. I'm sorry for all the pain. Go look in the mirror, say, hey, I'm sorry for all the pain.
I agree. 'Cause I think sometimes, I don't know, I think the world would be a better place if people were just willing to give a little sometimes. Like, I don't know. I don't usually go too far into detail with thoughts like that, just because eventually it turns into stuff that's political, and that's not worth it.
My love, it grows with the memories like a symphony. And you and I, we got history, yeah. And when you're alone, do you say my name? Or you say her name? Yeah.
mean, you can't have the positive without the negative, though. Just because, like, I think acknowledging the negativity in the world makes it easier to appreciate the things that are good in life. Yeah, I can agree with that. I agree completely. Like, contrast is one of my favorite things to work with. Because, like, especially when you're working with lighting and shadows, if you have, like, just really, not necessarily exaggerated, depending on, like, what type of lighting you have going on, but, like, if you really sort of emphasize the edge lighting, you can really make a piece, like, I don't know, like, you can just really make it pop, like you said, because it just really exaggerates the edges of everything. Because, like, it's not always necessarily just, like, a color scheme or, like, light versus dark. It can also be stuff like different line weights, like a contrast between, like, really thin outlines and, like, really dark, exaggerated outlines. Because that can also really help show, like, depth and all of that. I agree completely. Like, one thing that I personally struggle with still is, perspective. Because, like, I've been doing things long enough where, like, I can kind of, like, just put things together and they usually look right. But, like, really complex perspective, like, I'll use an example, like, with weapons or vehicles or things like that are a lot more difficult for me than the more organic perspective, like when you're working with, like, a character. Because, like, with characters, like, they're not just straight rigid lines, you're also dealing with, like, curves and other shapes. So I guess I struggle more with, like, straight lines than curved lines. Yeah, forced perspective is a nightmare. Yeah, I sort of had that thought when I was making it. Kind of just reminds me of, like, I mean, because, like, I know a lot of the Looney Tunes use signs and whatnot, but it really reminds me of, like, Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, because that's where I think it was probably one of the most prevalent, just because they didn't talk. I appreciate that.
You my bunny, I'm your clock. From now to eternity, I give you all my heart. We are meant to be, it's clear to see. My love is bigger than I thought. I got everything I want when I hold you with my arms. The others don't matter, my love and my pleasure, the key to my treasure. Whatever's the weather, day up and out with you till I die. How many times for you I'ma try? Want you to notice the one and I know this perfect soulmate. I wanna show it my best friend. She saved my life, my happy end in hard times.
Oh my gosh. The worst part is that you're not wrong. I totally would. Now I'm gonna have to keep that in mind if I ever go to conventions. Just have that in my backpack or whatever. Because, like, with the partial suit that I have, even though my mouth is movable, it doesn't necessarily move completely in sync with when I try to talk, so I doubt I'd really be talking with anybody a whole lot. Just because it would look or feel kind of awkward, but I would definitely consider having signs like that with me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because I think it's gonna sound kind of stupid, but I think the most fun with that would just be using signs to confuse people. Like, having a bunch of just random nonsense signs that don't mean anything, and, like, holding them up together to share, like, just complete nonsense messages. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Adventure Time or not, but there is one episode where Finn and Jake try to see who can go the longest without, like, physically saying anything. And they all have, like, they both have, like, so much time to make all these random signs with words that they think they might need to use. And I think it would be a lot of fun to try to do something like that. I agree. Like, I was sad that it ended, but I think there wasn't really a whole lot more they could do with it as far as story, because, like, with all that they've added to that universe, I'd say that the story was pretty much complete, and that's really rare with series like that. Although I have seen that they've made, like, I don't know if I would consider it a sequel or a continuation. I guess a sequel series on HBO, but I haven't watched that because I don't have HBO. I think it was on HBO anyway, like one of their streaming services. Like, there are some points where it kind of just gets really, like, I don't know. Like, I would say there are a couple parts of the series where you're kind of like, I don't know why they are including this or how it relates to the story, but it all kind of ties together eventually. But I can't really go into more detail without ruining anything, so I won't. I'm all about not sharing spoilers, because, believe it or not, spoilers are like my least favorite thing. And the people that share them. Just kidding, that was a joke. No comment. It really depends on the character, because since I do a lot of anthro art, I would say the things that vary the most are probably the noses, mouths, and ears, because as far as the eyes go, that's pretty much my style, so even though that's time consuming, I would say that's probably my favorite part. But I would say, honestly, the thing that I struggle with the most is probably the mouth. Like, because even though they're usually pretty simple, it's hard to get it at, like, just the right angle or just the right line width, if that makes sense. Because it's also one of the parts of the face, like, if you really mess it up, it's going to stand out more than, like, if other parts are messed up. Because I guess that could also apply to the eyes, but I usually put the most effort into making sure that those are right, just because, like I said, that's my favorite part to draw, which I don't know if that, I don't know. Everyone has different favorite things, I guess. I agree. Like, if the mouth is open and, like, you have it at a weird angle or something, everyone's gonna tell, like, right away. Like, if I just, like, draw a mouth over here, and we, like, I don't know, and we put, like, a tooth here, and a tooth here, and another tooth over here, and they're all supposed to be, like, straight, it's gonna look really off. So, like, if we take our sketch away, yeah, that looks super, super messed up. Especially, like, if this tooth is supposed to line up with that one, it just looks weird. I'll have to erase those, because they don't need it off. I'm just gonna cut it up, that's faster. Oh my gosh. That's the fun thing with art, because even when things are wrong, they can look right if it's in the right scenario. And I won't say that I wouldn't do that, or I won't say I would do that, but I won't say that I wouldn't. You're not wrong. Because, like, one of my favorite things is sarcasm, and it's not something that a lot of people appreciate. Because, like, you have the people who say that they're fluent in sarcasm, but then they get upset when you use sarcasm with them. And then you have the people who are, like, actually all about sarcasm, and they're just, like, the most hilarious people on the planet. Disclaimer, I'm not saying I'm hilarious, because I'm definitely not. I don't know what you're talking about, Dark. I think that might not be a true statement, but I'm not sure. Definitely, definitely, that's what's up. At least you're willing to admit it, though. I'm just kidding. Are you working on any new projects with Mew recently? I think one of them is me, but I'm not sure who the other is. Because, like, for whatever reason, it'll always show, like if you're in your, I think it's a stream manager, then it'll count that as one viewer, and then I don't know about the others, like, the rest of them theoretically are other people. I mean, I would say... No, I won't say that. Never mind. I was gonna say, like, it's fine to have people watching from the shadows, but then again, I don't really condone stalking, because that's not very cool. Because, like, I guess the example I'll use is, like, if somebody is watching from the shadows, like, I don't know, like on a Facebook page, like an art page or a music page or something that somebody has like that, and not like a personal profile, because again, that's really creepy and not cool. Or like if somebody's watching from the shadows on like Instagram, where you share like all the stuff that you want people to see, like, you know, that's okay. But then if you're watching from the shadows and, like, I don't even know where I was going with that, but just, yeah, don't be creepy. I understand completely. Because in this day and age, no jokes are okay. And everybody's offended. Which, like, some things I can understand people being upset by. Like, if it's, like, something, like somebody just being insensitive or racist, you know, that's not cool. But, you know, if you're being sarcastic and, like, not actually intending to hurt anybody's feelings, humor is okay sometimes. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah. Not really. Like, usually, if I do anything, like, the closest thing is that sometimes I will start on, like, that straight. So, like, a lot of times, as far as the face goes, I might do, like, the hair first, because that's usually straight lines, and that's kind of, like, something that you can warm up with a little bit, because I'll usually do the details of the eyes last if I haven't warmed up, or like I'll start with like the eyelashes kinda, because those are usually really bold, and like, at least as far as my more chibi art goes, but like, I don't know, that's probably the closest I do to warming up, is just intentionally doing line art or drawing for certain parts of a character first that are more simple, just so that I don't have to like keep redoing the main parts until I'm happy with them. Which I see something up here that I'm not completely content with. This one, yeah. Get off my keyboard. I wondered why it wasn't letting me do anything for a second. Oh, I don't drink water. I just absorb moisture from the air. By the way, kids, that's bad advice. Don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about, Dark. Like, I am not sarcastic at all. Thank you. Yeah, that's the other thing that I do. Because I try not to when I'm in the middle of a stream, but sometimes when I'm working on pieces like this where I have like a lot of different parts together, I'll jump around a lot when I notice that something's wrong. Because I will totally forget to go back to it later and fix it otherwise. I don't like head pats, but I appreciate the sentiment. Because, like, in terms of contact, I'm kind of like a cat, where it's like, look but don't touch. Like, kind of like when a cat, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the meme or not, but like the one cat where it's, I think it's like rubbing up against like its owner's leg or something, like, you know, pet me. And then like the owner goes to pet it, and then the cat's just like angry, like, no, with your eyes. Like, yeah, I don't know. Exactly. That's it. Like, I'm all about memes, because my whole life is a meme, but that's okay. Keeps things interesting. I understand. See, somebody gets it. I'm sorry to hear that, because, like, a life without memes isn't even worth living. Like, that sounds horrible, but it's totally true. Because when people say memes are life, like, if they don't mean it, then I don't think that they're living life to the fullest. Because, like, people just don't appreciate how readily available all of these hilarious things are nowadays. Because, like, I don't know, like, with the internet, you can literally see, like, hundreds or thousands of new memes every single day. And anybody who doesn't think that's amazing is, like, they're missing out. I agree. Because, like, there's, like, so many different genres of memes. Because, like, I know a lot of people don't really look at it like that, but you have, like, I don't know, like, you have things that are political, which those are really hit or miss. And you have things that are, like, complete nonsense, and you have memes that are, like, just shit posting, and those are probably the best, but those, I don't know, like, people either love or hate those, and a lot of people hate them. But they don't have to like them for them to be funny. See, I totally would, but, like, I don't because, like, I would just rather not have people dislike me because they don't understand my sense of humor. Because it's like, I don't know. Because I don't really care if people like or dislike me. It's not like that, but just, I know that there are a lot of people who would just straight up hate me just because they don't understand my jokes. And I think that that would have a negative impact on my overall goals. I agree completely. That is the worst thing about memes in general. Because if you have to explain it, it's not funny anymore. Exactly. And, like, the worst part is that there are some memes where if you haven't been part of the meme culture for literal decades, you're literally going to have to start from the beginning and, like, basically explain the whole history of memes to somebody before you can even start explaining the joke, and that's ridiculous. I'd say it depends on the update, because usually updates are for the best, because a lot of times they're like fixes for bugs and glitches. But then other times when it like impacts gameplay, I think that's kind of dumb. Because like there are a lot of times, especially in multiplayer games, where they'll like nerf a certain class or weapon or whatever, and like while those things may be overpowered, I think that sometimes things being unevenly matched sort of adds to the enjoyment of the game, just because if everything was exactly the same, you wouldn't have different options to choose from. And like, I don't know. Like, I know different people would disagree with me on that one, but I think that, I don't know. The only downside there is just that usually once people realize that a certain class or like ability or whatever is overpowered, then everybody starts using it, and that's the point where I think it's kind of fair to change things up just because everyone's playing the same thing and it's not exciting anymore. I definitely prefer single player because I don't handle multiplayer games all that well. Just because, like, I guess I don't have the spatial awareness in some games to do well in multiplayer, which is something I could definitely practice at, but I don't. So I just get frustrated, and that's not as fun. Like, it's not fun playing games if you're frustrated, because the whole point is to spend your time enjoying them. And if you can't enjoy the game, then there's no point in playing. And I guess, like, thinking about it, even when it comes to multiplayer games, versus single player games, like games that you can only play in a single player mode, I would say I probably prefer playing the games that are just single player, like no multiplayer option available. Like, I love platformers just because, like, I really appreciate the simplicity. I agree. Because, like, when it's just single player, you don't have to deal with, like, other people coming along and either harassing or being like, ugh, noob, get out of here. Which, you know, that's whatever. Like, just as an example, like, you just don't have to deal with the drama. Because at the end of the day, any situation that has multiple people where anybody can join, it's eventually going to turn into nonsensical drama. And it's not worth it. I appreciate that. Because, like, The thing that I try to do with my line art is to show the depth of an illustration without having to have any sort of like color or shading, because even though people don't usually pay a whole lot of attention to the line art in the finished product, because something that is full color you don't really see it as much, it still has an impact on the way the overall image looks once you're done. Because a lot of the times when I'm erasing, my main purpose is also like just making sure that the lines are smooth, because I hate jagged line art. Like, that's my least favorite thing when it comes to line art, is like if it's like all over the place, like somebody's doing all like these sketchy lines, it just looks really messy. And even if you erase them, like, there's still no guarantee that it's going to look clean afterwards. And even though I could erase, usually with stuff like this, I prefer to use the, like, Control-Z, because that way if you miss any amount of what you just added like that... Hey, welcome to chat, Jester, how are you? Because yeah, if you erase and you miss any amount of the lines that you just did, then that's going to potentially impact, like, especially if you have, like, transparency in your piece, it might be something that you'll have a hard time finding later. Like, if you're trying to figure out where that line is and you have to erase it. Yeah. So how are you tonight, Jester? Yeah, especially me, because, like, sometimes I just can't seem to get my lines where I want them to be. And, like, I don't know. It's one reason why I like digital better than traditional art, but at the same time, with traditional art, if you make a mistake, like, I don't want to say it's easier to, like, do things to make it less apparent, but with digital art, like, if you mess something up and you don't fix it, it's going to be more apparent in the end, like, by comparison. Because, like, if you mess up your line art when you're doing traditional art, you can usually, not always, but usually just, like, add more color or shading in that section if you need to, as long as it doesn't, like, unless it's something that wouldn't make sense. Like, if it's somewhere that should have highlights, you're probably better off using, like, whiteout or, like, opaque white, like, watercolor or something, to go over that. But as a general statement, you can usually do some sort of correction. Oh my gosh, like, there was one time, like, I had been doing a lot of digital art, and then I was working on something traditionally, and I totally hit Control-Z on my keyboard, and I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't work. Because usually when I'm working on traditional art, it's on my same desk where I do, like, all of my digital art, so it's, like, all in the same space. But yeah. If Control Z worked with traditional art, that would be like the most amazing thing. I can't even imagine the convenience of being able to do that.
In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop.
Yeah, sometimes I'm a mind reader, but not usually. Sorry.
Into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, for you, for you, for you, for you.
gosh, I can only imagine what you made. Yeah, I agree. So, it is actually my own artwork, but I commissioned Nikhil Sapra on Fiverr. He is one of the people there who is able to rig avatars. But yeah, give me one moment and I can link his page real quick. Let me just find it. But I recommend him 110%. I appreciate that. Yeah, so that is his page for the gig for rigging avatars. So if anybody's ever interested, like I said, I recommend him 110%. He does a great job. And without his help, I never would have probably had an avatar that moves as smoothly as this one does. Because admittedly at one point I did try to do it myself. It's not something that I don't think I couldn't learn eventually, but definitely a very time consuming and tedious process, and not something that I felt like figuring out right then. So I really appreciate the help that he was able to offer. Yeah, like it's crazy because not only do you have to get everything rigged for like just like the different angles for movements, but like, also, like, you have to adjust, like, literally every part and piece of everything that's there to make sure it all fits together just right. So I have so much respect for people who do that, because I just don't have the patience. I would say I've always enjoyed, I guess, the way that a waning crescent moon looks, specifically the waning crescent, which is like the one that's sort of after the full moon as it sort of transitions back to the new moon, just because, like, I guess it has different meanings symbolically, but a lot of it is just like, I guess, a lot of the common sort of interpretations relate to like experience and wisdom, etc. So I guess that's just something that's always important to me. But I just like the aesthetic too, so that's always a plus. Oh no, there's no reason to apologize. It's always interesting seeing different perspectives like that, because, like, everybody has, like, different interpretations of everything, even though it might be the same symbol. So I've always found that just really interesting. because like everybody thinks about things differently, and I think that's one of the coolest things about people in general, is just that everybody is their own unique person. And I don't know, it's cool how like all the different ideas just sort of fit together. I agree. Like, that's one reason why I like art so much, is just because, like, you could have 5 different artists make the exact same image and they would all do it in a completely different way. Like, maybe not, like, completely different, but, like, even if the goal was to have, like, the same style and everything, like, to make it the exact same image, it's neat to see how everyone would do it different. Ears are even. Yeah, because I accidentally made the ears too big in the sketch, so I've been trying to adjust them down a little bit. Yeah, because, like, I noticed after I had done all the sketches that, like, I've kind of adjusted a little bit, but I noticed that as I was making the sketches, the ears just got, like, gradually larger, and I'm like, that doesn't look right. So, on, like, the first ones I did, I tried to make the ears a little bit bigger, and the last ones I'm making them a little smaller just to sort of even things out a little bit more. another thing that when I do, it's like whenever I am moving a small piece of the image that I have sort of separated from the rest, if it's possible in your program, I always try to grab it from like an area away from where I'm actually working, because then you can see better what you're actually changing. Because like if I had grabbed that over here, my cursor would have been in the way. I understand completely. Drawing circles is like my least favorite thing because I don't like them to be anything but as close to perfect as possible, and you know that's not easy. Another thing that I do when I'm making line art, if I notice like things that are slightly off, like here, this side of the sign I think is a little bit too short, as long as it's not like a really complex detail, I'll usually just do the line art away from wherever the sketch is. Just because it's a waste of time to go back through and change the sketch unless I need it for some reason. Yeah. I just love how sarcastic it is while still just being a sign. Like, it's great. It could, but I have reasons for keeping the U on there. Because, like, I don't know, it just seems more snarky, I guess, and that's fun. Because, like, generally I'm not, but I definitely am when I'm being sarcastic. So I have everything set up through a program that I got on Steam called FaceRig, and that just links to my video camera, which right now I actually have that set on my tablet because I use a pen display, which can actually be really inconvenient when I'm drawing because, like, I'll use an example. If I, like, have my hand in front of the camera, there's no line of sight, so it just tracks like what I'm saying with my mouth based on what the microphone is picking up, but it doesn't actually track my movements. So I usually try to pay attention to what I'm doing with my hands while I'm drawing so that they don't get in the way, but sometimes that doesn't work out. So if you ever see that happen where it just randomly freezes up when I'm drawing, that's totally it. My hand is just blocking the camera. But then, let's see if I left anything out. Because as far as, like, my streaming setup, like, I have, let's see, so it broadcasts from FaceRig, as a virtual camera, basically, and then I can use that with any program on my computer. So I would just select the virtual camera and it would know which one it's talking about, which is great. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to that. Like, because it sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. It's whatever. Because, like, I've noticed that you have an avatar in most of your streams, so it's kind of probably close to however you have everything set up. The only difference is just that I had to, like, sort of install my custom avatar to the program I have through, like, just saving the files into the right folders, which isn't really difficult if you can find them. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing that's different versus just using whatever programs are available. Yeah, I can understand that. But I mean, you could always make a character that's like specifically meant to be you. Like, I don't know if that's something you're interested in doing or not, but like, you know, whatever works.
I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
I would say not really. Just because, like, foxes have always been my favorite, so that part was easy. I did debate a little bit on some different design ideas. Like, the design was pretty much the same, just because, like, physically speaking, Kurisu is based on me. But as far as, like, different color schemes, I had actually considered making Kurisu sort of a white and gray color scheme. I don't know if you're familiar with the marble variation of red foxes, but they have like a wider variety of color variation. Because natural red foxes in the wild are usually just, you know, like red-orange or like brown and white. Not quite. I can find a link real fast. Just give me one moment. Because Arctic foxes are a little bit different. Because they're typically either like a solid white during the winter, or like, you know, like a brown in the summer and spring. Search marble fox. So hopefully this link works. But that is sort of just like one pattern variation that's kind of common. I guess it opens and it shows the whole search. So yeah, marble foxes are just red foxes with a color mutation. So that was kind of a color pattern that I had considered initially. But I ended up settling on the orange and white just because that's more obviously a fox. And I wanted things to be as easy for people to look at and know what they were seeing. Because, like, I don't know, when it comes to different color variations like that, especially with my style, not necessarily always having a whole lot of difference from species to species, there was a potential that people might have thought that Kurisu was a wolf, and that wasn't really what my plan was. And another thing I always do, occasionally I will hide my sketches, because like you can see here where I've adjusted the line art, I have a lot of random left behind lines that I couldn't see with the gray underline. Yeah, as long as it's all on the right layer, that's all I care about, because it always sucks when you do something on the wrong layer, because that's pretty unforgiving when it comes to digital art. Yeah, coloring on the wrong layer is the absolute worst thing that could ever happen with digital art, in my opinion, outside of like your file getting like corrupted. Like that's the only thing worse, I think, than coloring on the wrong layer. Because I've had that happen before, and that's not fun, because then you have to start over. Exactly.
Can you dig it?
Yeah, I agree. Because it's like having to redraw something really sucks, but it does almost always turn out better the second time. Just because, like, you can kind of take shortcuts, because a lot of times when you're making it the first time, you're sort of figuring things out and where things should be. Sorry, where things should be. Sorry, my mouth is dry. I should probably drink something. Lol. But, like, you can save time with your drawing and then go back over and make everything a lot better. Yeah, that's the easy way. You just gotta know what you're doing. You just gotta get good. Easy. So, what's everyone up to? Are you guys doing anything interesting right now? Or have any fun plans for the week? I mean, I'd say that's all a matter of opinion. Because I think when it comes to drawing a sexy orc, I think it's probably more about the pose and personality of the character, if that makes sense. Because appearances don't always matter. Not to say that orcs are, I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on things like that. I just know that a lot of people are less into orcs than other options. I'm just gonna stop talking because I'm gonna dig myself a hole. No, I just meant, like, I don't know where I was going with that, so it was just better. Because, like, I know I would end up offending somebody who likes orcs, and I would rather avoid that if I can help it. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I understand. Because, like, I tried to make them more accessible for, like, the majority of everyone, just because, like, it's really hard to find a time that works for me and for other people. So, like, I think 10 p.m. might be the closest to that as far as, like, weekdays go. Especially Friday. But I'm not sure yet. Like, everything's still a bit of a work in progress. So, I mean, everything's still subject to change until I can really find something that works for everybody. I understand completely. That one I may end up having to try to, like, post on, like, I don't know. I might have to try posting that in, like, other areas, because, like, I can't do anything earlier because I don't think anyone would be up. Like, even fewer people would be awake. And I can't do anything later just because of, like, work and other obligations. So, yeah, that makes Saturday a bit difficult. But, I mean, maybe. It'll get better eventually, I don't know. Right? Like, being an adult is the worst. Because it gets in the way of everything that you want to accomplish that's, like, outside of paying bills and, like, having food and whatnot. Yeah, the best part is that they don't really give you a choice. I mean, I guess that's debatable depending on the person, but for the most part, you don't really get to choose. Now dark. Some people are in better positions to not have to be adults, and we can't judge them for that. But, you know, it'd be nice not having to sometimes. The only thing that sucks is, like, adjusting everything. It makes the edges a bit fuzzy, so I have to go back over and fix everything. It could be worse. I appreciate that they're here, even if they're not saying anything. Gosh, Pats, what are you doing? I don't know what they just did, but something got knocked over. I didn't hear glass breaking, so that's all I care about. Because they're all fine, and that's all that matters. there. Something. One looked a little bit confused, so I'm thinking that was probably the one that knocked stuff over. So I'm thinking he probably wasn't trying to tell me anything, because he looked like he just woke up, so he must have moved funny in his sleep and knocked stuff over.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left.
Exactly. Like, they always look at me like, why did you do that? Yeah, I'm the one that just knocked that bookcase over. You're right. Thankfully, no, they have not done that. Knock on wood. Lol. But yeah, I'm thankful that for the most part, usually our cats are not all that destructive, so that's a huge plus, because I've heard horror stories from people whose cats destroy everything all day. So now I'm kind of just checking to see if there's anything I want to fix on any of these. Because I don't know for sure if I'm going to do any color on this stream or not. Because I might just go ahead and get some of the line art corrected. It's like the ear is kind of weird right there, so I'm going to adjust that real quick. Is that this one? Yes. Thank you. I think they kind of make things a little bit, they make things a little more fun, I guess. Because just using text all the time is kind of boring. And I'm not a fan of most of like the standard yellow emojis, just because a lot of the faces that they make are actually really awkward. Not to say that the text face emojis couldn't be seen as awkward to some people, but I don't know. They're just a little bit more unique, I guess. It gives things a little more personality. I appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, on that note, I think I am probably gonna finish up for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be back same time tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Probably be starting color on our emotes tomorrow, so that's exciting. I'm sure that that's probably what most people have been waiting for, because most of my art process is actually in the color, whether it's the shading or like all of that. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone who decided to stop by, and like I said, I'll be back tomorrow. See you all then.